This is a really great song and really interesting. Sleater-Kinney, is it called The Hot Rock? Hot Rock, off the album Hot Rock, or the album might be called The Hot Rock. Sleater-Kinney are a really great kick-ass rock and roll band. They transcended the banality, kind of beta-driven, mediocre energy and delivery, kind of like diluted rock and roll delivery, but very talent-based and very enjoyable, sometimes really enjoyable. This is a rambling lead-in. I'm describing the indie rock scene of the mid to late 90s. A music scene, a music genre that I dove face first into and I didn't come up for air for a long time. Guns N' Roses, finally, a revived interest in Guns N' Roses that quickly became an obsession, saved me from my indie rock mediocrity, and it revived my ear, because if you listen to any one genre, it brainwashes your ear or ear washes your ear. It conditions it to not be able to think outside the parameters of that genre, and that's what happened to me with indie rock. My years of indie rock of just exclusively listening to really awesome bands. I mean, Elf Power, Low, Granddaddy, great stuff, but you got to throw in some GNR, some Megadeth, come on, mix it up. Anyway, Hot Rock, Sleater-Kinney, really accomplished, interesting record for them, and a proper, along the trajectory of their career, a very appropriate transcendence. Not only, like I said before, they transcended the indie rock scene at the time, the meekness of that scene, but they also, it was a proper elevation within their own artistic trajectory. They made some really awesome punk rock records, Call the Doctor, and especially Dig Me Out, a 1997 album that was really critically acclaimed and really broke them out. Awesome, like driving, punk-inspired rock and roll with some post-punk angler guitar riff moves by the really talented Carrie Brownstein on guitar, and a lot of pop sensibility, and also Corn Tucker's amazing vibrato heavy wailing vocals that really carried their sound. But then, so they went through their early years punk phase. They mastered that on Dig Me Out, and then they made a really interesting musically progressive album with Hot Rock. I talked over the whole song, but it's, if you listen to that song, the Hot Rock, I mean, the riff, the timing of the riff, Janet Weiss is a great drummer. It's a really interesting song. I mean, it wouldn't be out of place in terms of the riff, the opening riff and the rhythm. It wouldn't be out of place on a Rush record. It was really accomplished. And the album's really interesting. They were really branching out their sound. There's a song near the end, I think it's a quarter to three, it's called. It sounds like a Pretenders song. There's a ballad, Sides of Our Love. I'm not that crazy about that as I've gotten older, but it's so awesome to hear a band, taking that dare, as Soundgarden did with Super Unknown, as Rancid did with Life Won't Wait, and just say, you know what, we're gonna write what inspires us, what's inspiring us in the moment. And Hot Rock is one of those records where it's a band really breaching out musically and artistically, and it's really great. Then, I guess, and this happened to Soundgarden and Rancid, both those bands that I mentioned. They became punk conscious, punk self-conscious, self-conscious of the fact that they were very unpunk with their creatively inspired and diverse efforts. Super Unknown, Life Won't Wait, Hot Rock, and their follow-up albums to those creative and kind of experimental excursions was to make a bit of a regression, to release a bit of a regression. For Soundgarden, it was Down the Upside, which has some really awesome songs on it, but you could tell they were they sound burnt out on that record, and they broke up quickly after it. But you could tell they with songs like Ty Cobb, Never Name, which is a pretty crappy song. They were No Attention, which is another crappy song. They were forcibly infusing more of a straight punk rock sound into their music. Rancid too. They made this amazing, that a record that I've been really into lately, Life Won't Wait. It's a mashup of punk, ska, rock, rough edge pop sensibility, reggae, dub. It's a wonderful mashup. It's an amazing record. Bit of a masterpiece. Then they followed it up with a really stupid, like, meat-headed hardcore punk record. So Sleater-Kinney followed up the wonderful music expanding effort of hot rock with All Hands on the Band one. And like Soundgarden's Down the Upside, it's got a couple bangers on it. It's got some good songs. Swimmer, the closing track, is a really beautiful ballad. The title track, All Hands on the Band one's a good rocker. Candy, Sweet Tooth, Acid Tooth, nothing to do with you. It's a dental reference in the title. It's a good rocker. Sweet Tooth, something like that. So there's some good songs, but for the most part, it's just a regression. They sound really self-conscious because they were abandoning their punk and feminist roots a bit. So they really they seem to force more overt political themes on the record, and they seem to kind of dumb themselves down musically, and kind of like Rancid did, and Soundgarden somewhat did on Down the Upside. They made kind of a meat-headed, for three ladies, they made kind of a meat-headed, punk to a fault rock record. So that's kind of unfortunate because, all those bands, they should have kept exploring. They organically found their way into uncharted musical territory. And they should have kept exploring that in the way that Led Zeppelin did, and the Stones did, and Queen did their whole career, and Radiohead did. Just keep going. Who cares if you get backlash? Who cares if you're, especially something as stupid as being punk rock? Who cares if you're not as punk rock? Why do you want to limit yourself to something as limited as punk rock, as amazing as it is? Come on. Limitations, man. Who wants limitations? Once you break down those barriers and those walls within your music existence, man, just keep going. Explore that rabbit hole. Like Zeppelin, they found some really wonderful territory. Like I'm Gonna Crawl off In Through the Outdoor. They never would have written that record if they were too self-conscious about not writing like meat-headed rock and roll bangers like Living Loving Maid or a Heartbreaker. I'm so grateful that they ditched that stuff and they explored such rich musical territory and wrote stuff like Four Sticks, Rain Song, Stairway to Heaven, obviously. Yeah, it's awesome. Achilles' Last Stand, great Led Zeppelin deep track. Yeah. All right, I gotta go buy my ginger in ShopRite. Take care.